All right, guys, and ladies, we started multiplying and dividing fractions the other day, and I want to make sure that I have a copy of this for you in case you start to get mixed up and want to go back and review. Anyhow, we're going to start off slow and make our way upwards. If we start with a couple of smaller fractions, 1/2 times 2/3, our steps over on the right will always be the same. We are going to convert any mixed fractions to improper. We don't have any here, but we definitely will in all the fractions we'll be doing. Then you're simply going to multiply the two numerators and you're going to multiply the two denominators. The numerator is you multiply the one numerator times the other numerator and one denominator times the other denominator. So really this is 1 times 2, and that equals 2, and this is 2 times 3, which equals 6. So we've now multiplied our numerators, we've multiplied our denominators, but we have to reduce. And reduce means to look at your final answer and see if there is a spot in there, if there is a factor of both the numerator and denominator to make this a smaller fraction. From your mental math and from your knowledge of numbers, you should know that 2 goes into both 2 and 6. 2 will go into itself 1 time, and 2 will go into 6 3 times, so our new fraction in lowest terms is 1/3. So there's our first, very most simple fraction we will be doing. Okay, so when we get going next, you're going to start getting mixed fractions because we're in grade 7 and 8. Anyhow, we know that our first step we have to do is convert mixed to improper. And you multiply the denominator times your whole number and add the numerator. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So that's 3/2. Here's an important thing. I want you to know that the word of actually means multiplication. And you usually see it in multiplication of fractions. So whenever you see that word of, all you're going to do is do a little multiplication sign. Anyhow, 2 1/3, converting it from the mixed fraction that it is just going to be 7/3. Now that we see this, we're exactly like we were a few seconds ago. We're just going to multiply our numerators, and we're going to multiply our denominators. We did spend some time yesterday talking about how to reduce this in the question. So we could just make this 3 times 7 is 21, and 2 times 3 is 6, and then reduce it. But we also talked about looking across a numerator and denominator in the question and making it smaller. And I know that 3 will go into 3 and 3 will go into 3. I can reduce it right here. If I did it this way, my answer would be 7/2. It's already in lowest terms. So you can do the reducing in this step, or you can get an answer down here and then try to reduce it, and it will still give you the exact same answer. It depends on what you become more comfortable with. All right, we'll do one more. Now here's a question that seems to stump a lot of people. When it says 5 1/2 or a fraction of a whole number, so 5 1/2 of 2 in this case, please remember that of just means multiplication, and we are going to convert any mixed to improper. So let's start with the 5 1/2. 5 1/2 as an improper fraction, remember we're just multiplying and then adding, will be 11/2. Of simply means multiplication. And now 2. We have to express 2 as a fraction. And some kids make a big mistake and say 2/2. And if they were to say 2/2, that's not quite right because 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that doesn't give you the same number as 2. But if we're trying to write this as a fraction, 2/1 is a great way to write, is the only way to write 2 as a whole number as a fraction. Again, your choice is yours, whether you want to reduce it here in the question or later when you get to the bottom. I prefer reducing it right here. Saves me a lot of time, and that would be 11/1. And 11, you can leave it like that. You can say it's 11 total. Either way would work for me. If you didn't want to do that, and I'll just bring it back, 11/2 times 2/1, you would simply multiply the numerators, which is 22. Multiply the denominators, which is 2. You get to the bottom and you say, okay, how many times does 2 go into 22? And that's 11 times. You reduce what here or you reduce there. It's absolutely a personal preference. So I guess we should take a second just to review this part of reducing. Now we can only reduce when we're doing multiplication. So it's really not too hard. When we reduce in the question, you find a numerator and a denominator. Can be any of these combinations that have a factor that's common to them. and you just reduce it here in the question so you don't have to do it later on when you get the answer. So if I'm looking through this, I see a lot of places I could go, and everyone will be doing a different way depending on what factors they want to start with. Anyhow, please remember you can have 5 different people doing it 5 different ways, and at the end you will get the exact same answer. So I'm going to start like this. 5, I know 5 will go into itself 1 time, and I know 5 will go into itself, or go into 15 3 times. Looking at my numbers now, I know 4 will go into itself once, I know 4 will go into 8 2 times. Well, there's 2 and 2. I know 2 will go into itself once, and I can still use this 2 again, and 2 will go into itself once. And the last numbers I have, 3 will go into itself once, 3 will go into 30 10 times. Now if I was to multiply across, all I have is 1 times 1 times 1, and that equals 1. And across the bottom, 1 times 1 times 10 is 10. And that's how you reduce in the question. We are going to keep practicing at grade 8s because it is a skill that you should just start picking up right when you're doing all the rest of your work, and use it without even thinking about to make your life simpler. You might not want to try it now because it's new, but remember, new things aren't particularly wrong or scary. They're just new. Try something that makes you think a little bit. You will be better off for it. All right, so now we're going to divide fractions. Dividing fractions is so incredibly similar to multiplying fractions, you'll lose your mind. Anyhow, if this is our question, 2/3 divided by 2/5, we'll start there, even though most questions in grade 8 will never not have a whole number in front of them. But we'll start here. The first thing is to change mixed to improper. We don't have any at the moment, so we can move past it. The next says change or invert the second fraction. So what it wants you to do is leave the first fraction the same and change 2 over 5 to 5 over 2. And that's called a reciprocal. You just take the second fraction and put whatever was on the top on the bottom and vice versa. And then you change it back to multiplication. And joy, oh joy, because we've done multiplication and this is not hard anymore. I'm going to continue to tell you to reduce in the question to make your life simpler. You can ignore and do it your own way, but 2 goes into 2 once on both top and bottom. 1 times 5 is 5, and 3 times 1 is 3. And that's our answer. We have reduced it in the question. We have no reason to reduce it, and there's no reason to put it back into a mixed fraction. Your grade 9 teacher said that that is okay. All right, so here's our last one, and I'm going to let you practice it today. You're going to change your mixed to improper. And here is our mixed fraction. You know, we multiply the bottom and add the top. So 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11 over 5. We might as well write it down just the way we see it. Anyhow, this is going to be 4 over 3. When we divide fractions, we change the second fraction to its reciprocal and multiply. So it's 11 over 5 times 3 over 4. Unfortunately, there's nowhere for me to reduce at the moment, so I have to go with 33 over 20. As I look through it, there's not many factors that I can think of that'll go into top and bottom. 2 won't do it, 4 won't do it, 5 won't do it. So she's finished. Practice. This is not hard. You change the second fractions to its reciprocal, and you multiply just like we've been doing. Good luck. Have fun.